crazy. Some are smart and brave. Well, it doesn't really matter. We all end up in the grave. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. I'm saying all my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead.
Well, hello, everybody.
And welcome to yet
another episode
of Here We Go Again.
All my favorite people are dead.
How dead are they?
So dead, they've been in the ground for, well, no, your guy hasn't been in the ground that long, actually.
2020, actually.
Yeah.
So-
That crappy year that took Ruth Bader
lot of
Ginsburg
people.
and my
And
first
Neil
year.
Peart.
Yes. Yeah, it's a terrible. Yeah, it was a
big
terrible.
year.
terrible
Rough,
year.
rough
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So, we got a special guest today.
Hello, breathers, fellow breathers.
See, he is one of
Wow.
us, right?
Oh, yeah,
He's
I've-
totally one of
I'm
us.
impressed. Good.
Out of the 19 or 20 people that we have out there, we just got to get more people.
So you're the one that's listening, because I know there's one, and it must be you.
Yeah, I'm the creepy guy listening.
okay,
There he
that's
is.
all right.
Yeah,
We
there's
like-
somebody over there listening to us.
We like creepy. we do creepy well.
It's like our thing. We love
We
creepy.
like creepy.
Yeah.
So this is
So-
what happens when you become a fan.
Yes.
You have to
end up
come
on
and
the show.
speak.
Yes, I
and,
know.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
now you did it.
And we feed you vegetables.
And then...
I need vegetables, or
Yes.
I'll be one of your
Next
podcasts.
People that we
Yeah.
talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
So-
we're going to have a podcast
We come
about
bearing
Bill Kleppel.
cauliflower. How many people can say that? And cauliflower, what I like about it is looks like ghost broccoli.
It
Look at it.
does.
See, we're looking at cauliflower and broccoli. It looks like ghost broccoli.
Yeah.
It's
So
dyed.
it's appropriate for the show.
It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Yeah.
It's not albino broccoli. It's
No,
ghost
it's
broccoli.
ghost broccoli.
Yes. Yeah.
And the
I like
broccoli
that.
looks so nice and fresh and alive. And
Right.
cauliflower not only does it look like a brain, but it looks like the broccoli died.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
You're right.
that's a visual for
It's
me
like
to
the
you,
skeleton.
right?
Yeah.
It's just what's left over. Maybe
Aw.
we can do an episode on cauliflower.
Well,
You know, all my favorite vegetables.
all my favorite vegetables are...
are white and.
Or how about
ew.
Clarence Birdseye, the guy that did
Oh,
the frozen
interesting.
vegetables?
Frozen
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's long dead, and I'm sure
Yeah.
he had his fingers in cauliflower and stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, frozen, keep food fresh.
You're definitely a history nerd to kind of come up with Clarence Birdseye.
Oh, yeah,
like,
I'm
who
ridiculous.
else would
Yeah,
do that?
yeah,
like,
yeah,
nobody.
yeah.
We'll make that association
Yeah.
from ghost broccoli.
From
I've
ghost
heard that.
broccoli,
It's
yeah.
like, what are you talking about now? Clarence
Ghost broccoli
Birdseye?
to bird's eye.
Yeah.
But I get the how you cross the
I liked it. Yeah.
dotted the
Yeah.
I's.
So Bill Kleppel,
Yes.
our special guest today. We want to make sure we
Thank
get his
you for
name out
having
there.
me,
So
yes.
yeah, thank you. So you've got a special character for us today.
I do have a special character.
Okay.
And he's dead,
And
right?
he's
He
gotta be
is
dead.
unfortunately
That's what we ask.
dead, yes. And his life was so filled with just historic events.
Yeah.
And he did so much that I could probably only fit in like half of his life.
Fair.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this will be a good starter for anybody that really wants to know.
Well,
about
part
John
one, and
Lewis.
if I don't know if we
of
like
course.
him, we can have him back for part two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't like it, well, you know.
Well, you know what happens.
Well,
Well,
we'll put
we
it this
can't
way.
we've got a
discuss
quarter
that.
of an acre and a shovel.
And a shovel.
So.
Yeah.
This is what he did before he was 25 is remarkable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did his first sermon at 16. He created a nonviolent civil rights organization at 18.
Man.
Was one of the instrumental coordinators when it came to the first freedom rides down into the Deep South when he was 21. He was getting
When I was
arrested.
16, I was thinking of getting a tattoo of Mickey Mouse on my ass.
Oh, there you go.
So
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not in this league.
Yeah, I was in mosh pits and trying to get
Okay.
beer and
Yeah,
cigarettes
yeah,
for
I
myself.
hear you.
I was in a wannabe metal band called Night Breeders of the Hudson Valley, and it didn't go anywhere.
Is that night breeders or night
Breeders.
Not breed. So you went from breeders to breeders.
Breeders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's creepy. But
I think we just played in my friend's basement really loud,
Yeah.
and it
and this guy
You
is
have to
actually,
start the band, the Breathers, then. There has been the Breeders, but the Breathers, I don't think are out there.
That's a good name for a band.
It is. But, so this guy's actually making a positive change
Yeah,
for
before
humanity.
he's 25.
Yeah,
and at that
exactly.
age, I was doing
Oh my
nothing
God!
of value.
Yeah.
Nothing
He
important.
actually he was out of 6 people. He coordinated the March on Washington, where Martin Luther King made his
At a young
King
age.
speech, his "I Have a Dream" speech. He was 23.
That's
Most
Yeah.
of the other people, they call them the Big Six, that coordinated
Yep.
to develop this. he was by far the youngest. I mean, the oldest was in his 70s.
Yeah, he was the last to die of them.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. And then, at the age of 25, he led a march that was supposed to go from Selma to Montgomery, but was halted at the Edmund Pettus Bridge, while 800 people got their asses beat. Brutally, including John Lewis, and he was in the hospital for days. But after reading a lot about all the instances and all the different protests, even before that, just him ending up in the hospital was like a piece of cake. I mean, he did 3 weeks in jail. He was beaten like every time he got onto a bus or a lunch counter or something like that. They really practiced nonviolence. So he was an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm looking at the audio here, and I'm like, I'm picking up the pounding on the table, but not his voice. No, we're getting it. You're good.
I have to go to a lower octave.
No, you're good.
Okay,
right.
I can begin at the beginning and go from there, or you guys want to?
Can I start with a question?
Absolutely.
So you've been reading for about John Lewis for a while now.
Yeah.
Did he really preach to chickens as a child?
Yes, he did.
I'm sorry.
Yes, he did.
Chickens like, buck, buck, buck.
Yeah.
Chicken. Wait, he preached to nonviolence to chickens?
He was getting inspiration at 5 preaching to chickens. Yes. His father, he started he was a sharecropper.
Not Colonel Sanders. That wasn't his father. Okay,
no, oh God. And you know what? He started a protest to his dad about killing the chickens.
So, okay.
Like me.
Yeah. So he was protesting and preaching at the same time. He was driving his family insane.
Dad, stop killing the chickens?
Now, I want to know what it sounds like to preach to a chicken. And I thought about this when I read that when I read this, I was like, is that really true? And then I thought, if I owned chickens and I was in my backyard preaching, it would sound something like this. And the Lord thy God saith unto thee, thou must lay eggs. For if thou does not layeth thine eggs, the hatchet will fall upon thee. Thy will be done, thy eggs must come. Amen.
Amen, sister.
Yep.
That was my...
Or thy neck will be twisted until death.
So I'm the only one that would have been...
Yeah. It's like...
Yeah, no, I would...
What?
Yeah, what?
I'm sorry. Anyway, I saw that I was reading a little bit about him and I was like, what would it sound like if I were going to preach to my chickens?
And I read that and I was like, he's a weird son of a bitch. This is good.
Should I ask why chickens?
Yeah,
his family dog was nowhere to be seen.
Who knows? I don't know. They didn't mention any dogs.
Okay.
But his father was a sharecropper, and he farmed cotton, corn, peanut. He had a peanut field, and he had chickens.
Okay.
So he put John in to go in charge of the chickens at 5. So, and then right after that, his uncle gave him his first Bible.
Oh.
Right? So he started preaching even before he had a Bible. But then he really got into it. And then I'm just going to slowly go through his early years because you'll get an idea of the trajectory of his life, pretty much. At the age of 11, his uncle Otis brought him on a trip to Buffalo. So this is the first time he left the South to see extended family for a summer. He remembered the anxiety and tension and fear that his uncle had while driving through the southern states. This really resonated with John because he felt it himself. I mean, his uncle was freaking out. They had to make all these clandestine plans just to go over the Ohio border.
Right, yeah. I can imagine that being terrifying as a kid.
He said that was a transformative experience. And it changed the world for him. And when he got back to go to school, he began to recognize the racial inequalities that were in between white schools and black schools that were in the area. From his bus ride in the rickety buses to the cinder block schools that he went to. But he loved to go to school. He really enjoyed his studies. His father didn't want him to go to school. He wanted him to just continue farming and help the farm. He didn't want him to get into any trouble.
Sure,
this is Alabama in the early days.
An educated black man can get into trouble.
Absolutely.
Play it safe.
Yeah.
Just do your crop sharing and
stay out of trouble.
And stay out of trouble, yeah. But yeah, John wanted no part of that.
Right, good trouble. Good trouble, right? As the saying goes.
And he also loved his librarian.
Ah!
His librarian loved him too, and he told John to read everything you possibly can. And so made him a radical at about 11 years old, 12 years old.
Okay, all right. Got to be something.
Yep.
Might as well be that.
Yeah. And in his freshman year in high school, his interest in social issues and civil rights in particular broadened when he started to follow the Supreme Court case Brown versus the Board of Education. Mm-hmm. That was a separate but equal laws that were deemed unconstitutional. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was really psyched about that. He was very happy at a young age.
Sure.
And soon afterwards, he heard the voice of Martin Luther King for the first time in 1955 when he was 15 on a radio station, WRMA, out of Montgomery.
That's got to be really inspiring.
Yeah.
At such a young age to hear his voice and realize, he's speaking to you, essentially. He's speaking to little John Lewis.
That's right.
And there wasn't the massive technology we have now.
Right.
You just press a button. It's like
Everything's
he's
instant.
trying to tune in a radio so he can hear somebody speak.
That's right.
Yeah.
That made a big impression on him too. Dr. King, he spoke of the principles of social gospel, combining religious instruction with relevant modern issues in the means to eradicate social injustices. And he really got it. John got it at a young age. He started listening intently to the trial, the Emmett Till trial, which was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, this young kid said something to a white woman behind a counter, and he ends up brutally murdered.
Yeah. Just horrible.
But then there was the Rosa Parks incident and Martin Luther King's Montgomery boycott. So all of these things he was really on top of.
Yeah.
So he was getting radicalized in a good way. Back then. Yeah. So,
yeah. I can only imagine the sort of world he was growing up in and seeing all that, but also being inspired by these great people doing amazing things. I mean, just what a time to grow up in. Terrifying, but also inspirational all at the same time, And
he was being torn between his family, too, and trying to, see the outside world and be a part of it.
Right, because like you said, his father's like, no, just stay here and be a farmer and be quiet.
He was a decent man, his father. He loved his father. He wasn't, abusive in any way, but he just didn't want him to go. And he was really afraid.
You fear for the safety of your children.
Especially here, Emmett Till getting.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want John Lewis to be
the next
right.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. So that was his early years. Then he went to a college called the American Baptist Theological Seminary. And he created, with other students, the Nashville Student Movement. The group began workshops for others in principles of passive nonviolent protests. The program wasn't for wimps. They sat around in chairs and they cursed at them, they spit at them. They had to keep themselves under control in any situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids just dropped out. I mean, they didn't want any part of it, which for good reason.
Yeah.
But they weren't messing around. They were like, okay, this is how it's going to work.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Then soon after that, the group itself, and he's a teenager, they start a campaign to desegregate lunch counters in Nashville.
Okay. Yeah.
And then a lot of other groups in other southern schools were doing the same thing at once. So it was like a perfect storm.
There you go.
And the protests created upheaval throughout the South, leading to tense standoffs, obviously. Yeah. On 27 February 1960, Lewis and 81 others were arrested. It's the first time he was arrested. He was arrested 40 times in his life.
40. Whoa.
Yeah.
And just for nonviolent protesting.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, not for, selling drugs or anything like that. Shooting people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just doing his right as an American.
Yeah. And this is where somebody comes in that you'll be very happy to hear.
I think I might know.
It got national recognition. People were outraged all over the nation. And they started getting telegrams from famous people and different activists and stuff. One of the first ones was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Of course it was.
You heard of her?
Eleanor Roosevelt, badass.
That's right.
Yeah. What was she saying back then to those rednecks,
well,
you know?
I remember reading her thoughts on the civil rights, and she was just like, I don't know how they have the strength to do what they're doing. They're amazing. Like, she loved Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, sure.
Like, loved him. And she was just, she's like, she had actually woke up one morning and said that she told her cook that she had a dream that she was in the protests with the African Americans in the South. She's like, I dreamed that I was sitting in with them in the dining sit-ins and everything else. And she's like, I dreamed that I was on the buses with them. And she's like, I wish I could, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, amazing.
I would love to see her go after like some of the rednecks down there. It's like, you racist scumbuckets. You let them go free right now, or I'll pluck your eyeballs out. You won't be able to see any color at all. Yeah. Nice. That's the same year that JFK wanted to get Eleanor's good graces.
Right, yeah.
You know?
And she was like, you're a wimp.
Yeah, exactly. You little bean-eating bastard. It's like, you kiss my ring right now. Jack say, we'll mow your lawn. Hey, me and Bob.
That's really good. I like that. That's a good impersonation.
Yeah. And bring your alcoholic father, too. He needs the exercise. So that was all going through my head.
Okay,
Eleanor Roosevelt just kicking ass. So,
yeah, absolutely. As one does.
Yeah, as she did. Yeah. But yeah, and then it got worse from there. Basically.
Oh yeah.
He started to reach out to other groups and other larger groups. There was a group called CORE, Congress of Racial Equality.
Eleanor was part of that.
Yes, she was. She's awesome. And it was centered in D.C., but that was the group that John got involved with when it came to the freedom rides.
Okay.
And they, and they knew that they were going to get their asses beat. They were going to Deep South. They were getting on, they wanted to integrate.
Shit, you could die doing that shit.
Interstate buses.
Yeah.
And they wanted no part of that.
Yeah.
Actually, John and some of the other riders, they filled out wills before they even went.
Oh, wow.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In case you never see me again, but I have to do this.
That's it.
You talk about bravery. You talk about commitment to a cause.
Yeah.
And
and a lot. And actually, after a while, after getting beat up so much, there were a few that were like, okay, enough with the passive nonviolence. I'm going to turn around and start kicking ass.
Yeah.
So they really had to hold together because there was fractions here and there.
Yeah.
Sure. But they held their resolve, so they did very well.
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah.
I'd want to kick some ass too.
It's like when we talked about Jackie Robinson.
Right.
The reason that he did great. The reason he was picked is because he knew that Jackie was in the same mindset. That I cannot fight back. There's too much at stake here. You cannot. You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't. And again, if I put myself in that situation, I don't know how much restraint I would have.
And being a New Yorker, it's like the first. My father's a retired New York City cop. It's I would immediately. It's like, okay, the dad gene pops into my head. So you son of.
That's right. It's true.
Let's see here.
Yeah, you're fine. You're good. Okay. You have a whole lot of notes there. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to get too
No, you're fine.
I want to keep the levity.
Do your thing.
Do my thing. All right. Let's see. So they were successful at the end. However, the buses were firebombed. There were people that were getting dynamite through their windows and stuff like that. And then there was one night. See, there's a lot of forgotten history too. These certain situations where Alabama called martial law because a bunch of protesters were at the First Baptist Church in Montgomery, including Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, and John Lewis. And they were just there to discuss certain things. And all the whiteys, all the racists started circling around the church. So the Alabama National Guard had to come in and, try to make some sort of, peace.
Yeah.
But they ended up arresting a number of the people that were inside the church.
Just
naturally.
Being peaceful.
Well,
exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
Naturally.
Yeah. So, so the freedom rides continued for quite a while. In June 1961, Lewis and some others went on a freedom ride into Mississippi, and they were arrested. They were transferred to several jails, and they had their mattresses taken away from them, toothbrushes taken away from them, anything to make them uncomfortable. And they were in jail. They ended up in Parchman Prison, and they ended up in jail for 22 straight days.
Right.
Yeah. And then they were finally let go because a lot of pressure from the outside kept on.
Oh, sure.
And that really helped a lot.
Yeah.
You know, even though they went through so much, I think that the world started to really see.
Open their eyes.
That was, I had read how a lot of like European journalists were coming over and starting to, take notice of what was going on and going, what the fuck is wrong with America?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
and it was making us look like shit,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so it's, so he continued to get his reputation larger.
Yeah.
And also all of these different groups, they were spreading their tentacles throughout the South, and they were getting press coverage.
Yeah.
And, they were friends with Dr. King and everybody else. They knew what they were doing. It was tough, but they were getting their word out. In 1963, John became the chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which is called the SNCC, or SNCC. And that was a major group that wasn't just in Nashville, but it was basically everywhere in the South.
Okay.
So he took that over in the ripe old age of 23.
23?
Yeah.
That's that same year something else important happened to him, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah. That's it. They started to put together the March on Washington for all the voting suppression, voting rights, every different type of issue that they were dealing with. They wanted a big event.
Just equality in general.
Yeah. So it was up to the Big Six, and the Big Six were Martin Luther King. He was the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, 34 years old. James Farmer of CORE, he was 43. A. Philip Randolph was 74.
Yeah, he was up there,
Yeah, he was around for a long time. Roy Wilkins, he was NAACP, he was 62. Whitney Young, National Urban League, he was 42. And John Lewis at 23 for SNCC. Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching his speech, which wasn't very long.
No.
And you could tell he was a little scared.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell.
Who wouldn't be?
Oh, God. How many? It was 300,000 people.
Yeah.
And, some kid from Alabama. It's like, he was pissed off, too. I mean,
sure
he was yelling at some of the guys in the back. It's like, this isn't radical enough.
Yeah.
But once he goes out there, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is scary.
Yeah.
But he did a pretty good job.
He did, yeah.
Let's see. And he was the sixth of the 10 speakers that day. There were 10. And they had all kinds of singers and stuff like that.
Right,
But the real thing was the speeches, and especially Dr. King's. And for the one thing that really put the topper on his young life was the Selma March. From
Bloody Sunday?
Yes, Bloody Sunday it was. John Lewis and Hosea Williams led the march, and they were stopped by the local police and the state police. The forces used batons, fire hoses, attack dogs, other weapons to disperse.
Yeah.
I mean, and they just beat anything that they could get.
Big guns.
And they cracked skulls.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
And he ended up in the hospital, didn't he?
He ended up in the hospital for several days.
Oh.
But the big thing, I know it's terrible, but this is what they really needed. ABC News broke into primetime coverage that night and showed 15 minutes of the beatings.
Ooh,
so
that's a lot.
That's a lot of time.
Of news.
And
prime time.
But 247 and a bunch of other local stations.
That's
everybody who was watching TV back then, and they were seeing this shit.
Good.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, that's what it came down to.
Absolutely. And that one particular thing that pushed LBJ over the edge.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna sign the Voting Rights Act in 1965, and that's what he did.
Huge,
it was an enormous thing.
Yeah.
Johnson said the Democrats will lose the South for generations after that.
Right.
Which in some cases they did. In other cases, they didn't.
Yeah.
But that is his early life, basically into his mid-20s.
And then he just kind of took off from there, didn't he?
Yeah. He kind of stuck to, staying on voters' rights. He thought that was, and plus he was tired. You know, he was like, okay, I'm sick of getting beaten up. I'll start to do other things. I'll be chairman of this board and this board and continue the fight.
Yeah.
You know, so many things went on in the late 60s that, that could be for another time. I mean, I wish I had more information about it. But anybody that would be listening to this, hopefully this might interest them about John Lewis a little bit.
Yeah.
And if it does, they can find out more about John Lewis.
I was just doing a little bit of reading. When you said you wanted to do John Lewis, I'm like, oh, that's very cool. And so then I was just kind of reading on some things, and he had I didn't realize that he had pushed for over a decade to get the National African American Museum opened.
Oh wow! Cool.
And that there was only one Congress, I guess either a senator or whatever, somebody who was fighting against him all those years. Like every year for like 15 years, he would introduce to the House. He's like, all right, let's I want to create the National African American Museum, and every year for like 14, 15 years. This one guy would always like...
Same guy.
Yeah, the same guy would always be like, no, we're not doing that. And he was from the South, of course.
Oh,
and then finally, when the other guy retired, then finally Lewis came through and said, so how about that National African American Museum? And then finally got passed.
They probably saw him come and said, here comes that persistent son of a bitch again.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Give him the museum.
He is never going to go away.
Give him the museum.
Yeah,
So finally got it. And that Obama had referred to him as the conscience of the United States Congress.
Yeah, he was.
That's quite an honor.
It
right?
is,
Yeah.
and he was that from 1987 until his death in 2020. That's a long time.
Reelected 14 times?
18 times.
18 times.
18 times. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
And even before that, Jimmy Carter tabbed him to start up this something called the Action Committee, which it was a federal volunteer group of over 250,000 people.
Yeah.
So he did that. It's like, sure, what the hell? And he did a great job, But after that, that's when he went into Congress, and yes, he was the voice.
Yeah, the voice. Yeah. He did the sit-ins for the gun violence.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to improve gun laws and just like all this stuff. All this once again continuing this non-violent trend.
Yeah.
Throughout his career. And I think we lost a good one.
Yeah, we did.
He was awesome. I know he died from pancreatic cancer.
He did.
But I'm like, it's probably made worse by serving under the Trump administration.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll put you in an early grave, too.
Him and Ruth Bader Ginsburg checking out in the same year. It's like, okay, we've had enough of this. These idiots.
And great, both of them great minds. It's another one, Ruth Bader. We got to do her.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that.
Because she's another great one.
Here's a morbid thing, though.
We like morbid. Bring it.
All right.
You talking about Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey? It's like his Jackie Robinson's wife still alive.
Yes.
She's 100 years old.
Yeah.
And she has done just as much for
That's right.
anything. I mean, she's amazing. It's like, but in the back of my head, it's like, okay, she's in the dead pool. If she drops. You might see Bill again, coming.
So what you're saying is you're like checking out hospice now.
There you go. Yeah, I got
like
Jimmy Carter just went into hospice today.
Right, like an ambulance chaser.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're like fresh off the presses. I'm waiting around. Is he dead yet? And so you're going to be our guy that we're going to send forward when somebody's got 1 foot in the grave.
Well, Shannon knows that. It's
All right, so
I'm looking up like old Poughkeepsie deaths for her and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
like, Bill's looking at this shit again. He's a little bit crazy, but that's good.
That's
all right.
kind of crazy. Yeah.
Why wait till the body is cold?
Exactly.
You can never be too prepared.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's good.
And you don't want people are going to forget fast, especially with all this,
No,
So-
that's true.
shit.
You've been reading these
Yes.
graphic novels, which I'm curious. What
Graphic novels, they are amazing.
Okay.
Because they're graphic novels, so it's really cool. It's action, but it gets granular about certain protests. So, you've got everybody getting beat up and jailed and this, that, and the other thing. But it shows you so much more. And it begins with him talking to a family before going to Barack Obama's inauguration. And it just goes back in time, comes back, and goes back in time again.
So tell our 5 listeners about it as far as title and
4,
author.
because he's one.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's not
Yeah.
listening right now, so we're down to 4.
It is called March, and it's by John Lewis, Andrew Aden, and Nate Powell. It won the National Book Award in, I believe, 2014.
Okay, all right.
There it is.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
so it's a whole series.
You got John Lewis for every generation.
Yeah.
There is an author that.
So he actually wrote these.
Yeah, he did.
He
he did. This was not posthumous.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Look at
Yeah, take a look.
Oh,
Take
wow.
a look. They're really cool.
Oh wow, these are
Beautiful.
like really fancy
Yeah.
comics.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're really neat.
And neat.
We were just talking about, I'm not
We-
big with graphic. I just finished, again, Mouse, M-A-U-S.
Yeah.
We were reading that in my book club. One of my book clubs, we were talking about doing banned books.
Yes.
And everybody out there needs to read banned books.
Yep. And Mouse is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about, I was never a big comic book person as
Yeah.
a kid, but the illustrations and the medium, the art that carries the story through a graphic novel is very unique. I mean, when you read a regular book, it's pages and pages of words.
Yeah.
Here, the words are very limited, but you don't always need them because the illustrations do the
Yeah, you get
storytelling.
the sense from the illustrations and the words.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can be bombarded with a lot of good stuff.
Here's that story that you were talking about with him and his uncle driving, and then they're driving. You can see the tenseness in the drawings, and like, oh, he's nervous about driving from.
Sure.
Oh wow, and then he says, oh, and then I could feel Uncle Otis relax, so I relaxed too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And being a librarian, it's like
Yeah.
I highly recommend these books for anyone, especially if they want to learn more about civil rights.
Yeah.
It's a good,
Fabulous.
it's a good portal to get, to throw yourself into.
Oh, look at that. These are great. I
3
love
books.
it.
This
Yeah.
is a series here of 3.
Yep.
That's really neat. I dig it.
Trajan.
Oh my goodness.
That one's huge.
Oh, this is the March. Oh
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh
That's
man,
why.
this book gets a whole.
Yeah.
This whole
book 3.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
they held back until the 3rd book when it came to the March and Selma. They really
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I
got
mean
into
that's horrifying. The
Wow.
whole experience that they
Right.
went through.
But the good thing too is it makes him human because
Yeah.
they go through the arguments that he had, and his conversations with Malcolm X, or somebody like Stokely Carmichael who began the Black Panther movement.
Yeah.
So and you get their ideas too.
Yeah.
Which is really neat.
Oh, I thought I saw death.
Yep.
I thought I was going to die. Get up, keep moving. Wow, this is powerful stuff.
It
We need
is.
to use that in our next podcast.
Oh, no.
Yeah, easy for him. It's like get up and keep moving. It's like
Yeah.
if I got hit with a water
nightstick.
hose and got bit by a dog and get hit by a nightstick, it's like
I'd be
okay,
done.
I'm gone.
We're done.
Yeah.
Keep fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep,
I mean, that's really amazing.
It is amazing.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing these.
You're very, very welcome. The book for kids, I don't have. We didn't have it at the library, but I wanted it in the library. It's a series by Brad Meltzer, and it's an I Am series. It's like I Am Rosa Parks, I Am Jackie Robinson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he just put one out, I Am John Lewis, this
Good.
January. So if anybody's interested to get one for their kids, just to read about, all different types of people in history. That is
It's a
a
good
great
introduction.
series.
Yeah. And I think this is definitely a great. I know everyone's like, the kids are inspired by movie stars or
Sports heroes.
or singers, but this is
What about real people who
Yeah.
do real things and make a real
Exactly,
difference?
Make a real difference, and I think this is
Yeah.
a great inspiration.
It's like if you want to be tough, that is tough.
that's tough.
That's real toughness.
That's real
That's
toughness
not
right there.
Hollywood or somebody singing or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
That's the real deal.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. Very
Awesome.
informative.
Yes, it was very informative.
Wow.
Yes.
Glad.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I
joining us.
hope that it worked out well.
Yeah, I think
Anything
so.
that you can edit out, please do so.
I think this was great, and
Good episode.
I think we'll have to have you again.
Okay, sure.
Sometime, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think you fit in quite well with the breathers, you know.
Oh, without a doubt. Yep.
Yeah.
That's,
he gets us.
He gets us, yeah.
All right,
I'll turn to the dark side too. I was thinking of like somebody like John Dillinger or something like that.
Cool.
It's like, that
Man
would
after
be
my
cool.
own heart.
I mean, we did an episode on murdering Lizzie's, you know.
Lizzie
were
Borden.
Oh
murdered.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Or Rasputin. We were talking about Rasputin.
Rasputin, yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like the guy that they just couldn't kill until they just put a bullet.
Yeah.
He wouldn't die.
No,
he
he
just
wouldn't.
wasn't
Yeah.
going down.
Yeah, and he was a twisted son
Can
of
you
a bitch.
imagine that? Yeah, that would be good.
He really was.
That would be good.
Next,
All right.
Okay, we're going to hold you to that. You have to come out and do Rasputin.
For Rasputin? Okay,
Yeah.
you got
All
it.
right, breathers, you heard it.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
And if any other requests, feel free to email us.
Yeah.
Get in touch with us. We
Absolutely.
take requests.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for
coming,
coming
Bill.
in.
We're
and,
so happy you came.
yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, all 4 of you, for
Or 4 other people that occasionally listen to our podcast.
to another fabulous episode of
All my favorite people are dead.
Dead. Keep breathing.
Keep Breathing.
Bye, breathers.
All my favorite people are dead. All my favorite people are dead. I'm saying